In Vayechi, the final Torah portion of the book of Genesis, we get the death stories of both Jacob, the last of the patriarchs, and Joseph, his favored son. And the burial instructions that each of them give to their surviving relatives of how they want their body to be handled after they die illustrates for us two central values that have sustained the Jewish people for thousands of years. Jacob, when he is about to die, gathers his sons around him and he gives each of them a blessing. And then he makes them swear to take him back to the burial place of his ancestors. And he's very specific. He says, "Take me to the cave which Abraham bought." He emphasizes the family's connection to the land and the right to the land, their ownership of that piece of property in the land of Israel. And in fact, his children do exactly as he has asked. A massive caravan is mounted from Egypt, where Jacob spent the last years of his life. And they take his body back to the cave of Machpelah in the land of Israel, and they bury Jacob with his father Yitzchak and with his grandfather Abraham. Joseph makes a very different decision. In the very last verses of the book of Genesis, as Joseph is dying, he asks his brothers not to take him back to their homeland for burial. But instead, he promises them that God will eventually help them leave the land of Egypt, will bring them back to their ancestral home. And he asks that his body be kept in Egypt until that time, as the very last Israelite is able to leave and to go on to their homeland in the land of Israel. There are two recent books, both of them engaging almost adventure stories more than history, that illustrate and highlight the importance of these two values in Jewish life. The first, When They Come For Us We'll Be Gone, The Epic Struggle to Save Soviet Jewry by Gal Beckerman, illustrates the principle that Joseph teaches us in his life. It's the story of Jews in the former Soviet Union, when it was still the Soviet Union, who banded together against immense pressure and in violation of the communist laws to invigorate Judaism and to teach one another Hebrew, to teach one another the traditions of the Jewish people. And at the same time, disparate groups of Americans, not part of the leadership of the American Jewish community, but just individual Jews who felt moved by solidarity with their Jewish brothers and sisters in the Soviet Union, to form groups here in America that would also lobby on behalf of the rights of Soviet Jews. And we see from this fascinating window into the end of the 20th century in Jewish history, the way in which Jewish solidarity, whether in the woods in Latvia or in synagogues in Cleveland, gave Jews in both countries the power to defy the world's greatest superpowers and to write their own chapter in the history of the Jewish people. And the other value, that of Jacob's attachment to the land of Israel, comes through in the book Like Dreamers by Yossi Klein Halevi, who recently visited Anshe Emet. In this book, Halevi shows us the paratroopers who reunited Jerusalem in the Six-Day War in the summer of 1967, and then follows their lives in the decades since then, showing us how two disparate camps emerge from the events of 1967. On the one hand, Gush Emunim, the settlement movement; on the other hand, Shalom Achshav, the peace movement. And yet, both of those groups, however opposed they were in principle to one another's politics, both of them root their views in a deep love for and commitment to the land of Israel. And so both of these books, looking at the last 50 or 60 years of Jewish history, actually illustrate the same values we learn this week in Parshat Vayechi. I can't recommend these two books to you highly enough. They are both exciting and really important to add to your Jewish knowledge of recent Jewish history. But I hope that as you read also, you take the opportunity to reflect on the ways in which you in your life, I in my life, am engaged with these two important values: solidarity with the Jewish people as a whole, and commitment to the Jewish homeland in Israel. Shabbat Shalom.